Hello, Brainiacs. Thanks for being here this week and always. Today is our dive into history of mental health and culture. And as you know, this month I've been highlighting Black pioneers in mental health care, especially here in the U.S., where it is Black History Month. And today we're going to talk about someone who is pivotal working in the field of psychology currently and addressing inequities in healthcare and so many things like that. But it is someone who is modernly pioneering, someone who is innovating currently. We're going to talk about Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, who I had come across some information about her. I'd love to have her as a guest if she's listening, or if any of you out there know her. I'm in the process after I'm looking into her stuff today of reaching out anyway. She may be too big to be on this show. We'll see. But she's doing a lot of really fascinating and interesting, important work for access to mental health care for Black women. We're going to get a little bit more into that real quick. I want to, up top here, plug this month's highlighted charity, which is the Lavender Rights Project. Go to lavenderrightsproject.org in order to learn more about this wonderful organization and the important work that they do supporting Black trans Americans and helping with practical obstacles in their health and happiness when it comes to legal issues, housing issues, and just a whole lot more. So check them out at lavenderrightsproject.org. Support them, share them, and learn more about them. Any of y'all who joined the Patreon this month will 50% of your donation will go to the Lavender Rights Project for as long as you remain a member, donating to the cause of the show. You'll be also donating to their cause as well. And you will get the fun bonus materials, including the other half of this episode. Every week, Thursday, this story in the history of what we're talking about will appear here on the main feed. A certain chunk of it, that is, and the rest will be available in its entirety to those who are supporting patrons of The Broken Brain. Now, let's dig in. Unlike some of the people I've profiled this month who have died and lived a long time ago, you can actually find not only websites, but podcasts about the ongoing work of Dr. Bradford, particularly her own podcast, which is called Therapy for Black Girls, which is also the name of the platform that she has created as well. She specializes in mental health issues and treatment that is especially relevant to Black women. As a trained and licensed psychologist, she worked as a college counselor, and then since 2011 until 2014, when she created this wonderful platform, Therapy for Black Girls, tying into a lot of research about obstacles to treatment for Black women, specifically in mental health, but that is an ongoing mental endemic medical problem for Black girls and Black women. And one of the cool things about her is that she utilizes a lot of technological tools in the space for where people are spending their time. Anyway, there's a quote that I found from her in an interview that she did with the Huffington Post back in, 2018. The title of that interview is "This Psychologist is Changing the Face of Therapy for Black Women." And one of the reasons she uses online tools, she mentions here, I'll quote, "I wanted to talk about things like how your mental health is impacted by your lack of sleep, or how all the hours you spend on Instagram can actually make you feel bad about yourself. I don't think we always do a great job of focusing on mental wellness and realizing that we all have mental health we have to take care of." And obviously, there's a lot of people with that same sentiment that are using online tools and those kinds of things to help. And even within that space, you see a lot of people who are mental health or wellness influencers, coaches, life coaches, and therapists who will use the platform. And there's a line there where do they lean more into the kind of influencer stage where this is something that they want to do in order, to does it become a source of income that way? Do they lean into more just having it as a way to disseminate health? Or do they have both? And by the way, none of those is automatically a bad goal, but I think the ones that do maybe the second or both, the second or third that I mentioned that are, hopefully there are people out there with a lack of training, lack of expertise, or fundamental misinformation spreaders. And I think the wellness influence community is rife with those, but it is always good to see that we also have a lot of people who are putting good work out there. And, Joy Harden Bradford is definitely one of those that's doing some really, really great things. Her background is she grew up in Louisiana and received a bachelor's degree from Xavier University of Louisiana, master's degree in vocational rehabilitation counseling from Arkansas State, and a doctoral degree in counseling psychology from the University of Georgia. One of the things that's really cool about that to me is I have worked a lot. I worked as a contract counselor for the Department of Vocational Rehab in the state that I'm in. So I have a real soft, happy, warm spot in my heart for that particular kind of work, which is a very, very specific type of counseling. We maybe we'll do a little episode on that at some point. But for those of you that don't know, vocational rehabilitation is a type of counseling that is particularly focused on helping people to enter or level up or engage better in the job market, and to be able to have, once again, vocational, makes sense, rehabilitation from what is primarily disabilities, whether they are mental health or other, associated with other parts of the body, whatever, other medical systems that we go into, any kind of disabilities, and trying to say, where's the person at and where could they be? And then making a plan for that. It's a very interesting type of counseling because mental health counseling and the counseling discipline did grow from what used to be school and vocational counseling primarily, whereas licensed clinical social work came from a different side. A lot of overlap, but anyway, very, very interesting. The background of those of us who have our degrees or licenses in counseling do sort of come from that. And vocational rehabilitation is a great mix of basically social service, counseling skills for emotional and mental health awareness, and then also practical solution making, knowing what kind of programs are available. And in some cases, especially working for the state, those vocational rehab counselors will actually be the ones to make a plan, approve, and help to provide, depending on the state's funding and whatever they can, for many, many things. And I've known of vocational rehabilitation to provide gas money, clothing allowance, training for interviews, lining up with job coaches, and even groceries and other things like that, as well as education. When I was a counselor at a vocational college, we had a lot of people that were sponsored for their tuition to be paid through the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So it really made me have a little woohoo when I saw that she had a education specialization in that as well. And I don't doubt that might be one of the reasons why she brings such a practical efficacy and efficiency to her work. Dr. Bradfor published her book, Sisterhood Heals, in 2023. So, within the last couple of years. And the description of the book says that it's to help find and nurture more fulfilling friendships and relationships, particularly for Black women. Black people in the United States, and particularly Black women, have faced medical bias, discrimination, assumptions are made, and different things that have had real medical impact and shortened the lifespans and denied access to treatment for those individuals. A very, very dangerous type of discrimination, one that when you talk about it, people get very uncomfortable, and they seem to be mostly comfortable when you don't talk about it. And so that is even more dangerous. An independent polling agency, you can find the information at kff.org, reports that 61% of Black women go to the doctor or any kind of medical intervention emotionally preparing for insults or for their needs to be either ignored, to be contradicted, and to basically be not supported in the initial reaction. Now that's that's in relation to, I should say, 40% of total adults. So 61% versus 40%. Black men face this, 57% of respondents felt that as well. So Black women were the highest. As we look at it, white men, it's only 28%. 38% for white women as well. By the way, women consistently scored higher in this kind of survey, meaning that they have a worse experience with the medical facility, but the highest rate of concern in this area is exactly that. And when you put it into terms of direct discriminatory language that they face, 21% have said that they have faced direct. And that is in more modern times, by the way. That is so the difference being, from what I can understand of the survey, direct being, direct discriminatory language that is said out loud. So there's a lot higher incidence of worry about it not being said out loud. Now, 21%, that may not sound like whatever you think it sounds like, but that is the highest amongst respondents as they measured this across total adults in the U.S. It's 7%, and all the others are under 20%. For white people, it's 3% as far as facing that. Not a surprising statistic, but something I think we should be pretty aware of. When they break that down, they find that those numbers go higher the darker skinned an individual is. So right away, you can see where people like to not talk about things that are pretty uncomfortable for people to talk about. But this is very important. People die because of this discrimination. If you want to learn more about that, one real interesting source is an article called "We're Not Taken Seriously," describing the experience of perceived discrimination in medical settings for Black women. That is put out by the National Library of Medicine. You can find that at pmc.ncbi.nim.nih.gov. It's the National Institute of Health basically runs this. So if you look up National Institute of Health and "We're Not Taken Seriously," discrimination, those kinds of search terms will definitely find you. This very interesting article that they have put out. So this contributes to one of the other problems that you find is that there is an aversion, a fear, and then you can even fuel into stigma amongst the population of being like nervous to go to the doctor or to the hospital because you're not going to get the treatment. They score higher. The scores are higher for Black women in being disregarded, being disagreed with, and particularly having their pain disregarded. You see a higher percentage of diagnoses that's reported from patients of things like ibuprofen and things like that, whereas someone who is white might go in and walk out with actual painkillers when they report pain. There's still a stigma where some medical health professionals believe that Black people have a higher tolerance for pain than white people do, which is based on nothing. There's no that's not a research-based thing. Also, there is a lack of training and recognition of skin tone and things like that. I read a study and surveys that were done where a lot of medical students and medical professionals, they do judge certain health conditions by the pallor or color of the skin, and they seem to be very aware of the way a white person's skin may look when they are presenting either with poor circulation or with other types of things. You see a yellowing or blue under the fingernails or other things like that. And just because of pigmentation, there are differences, and very, very little training or knowledge was found with those. So you can see where this falls into a lot of problematic things. And this extends into mental health. Some of the main identified obstacles for particularly Black women are facing that is obvious racism and bias from providers, but also typically financial barriers and also cultural stigma. So with cultural stigma that is there, you can see kind of a double thing that professionals like Dr. Bradfor are working with, which is to educate the population they're working with, but also to educate the service provision side of things and impact the greater culture at large. There's an article on the NBC News site, nbcnews.com, called "Healing for Mental Illness Can Take More Than Faith," which is a direct review of Dr. Bradfor's work and talking about the program, the Therapy for Black Girls. This is from 2017. Now, in the quotes that they have here, and I believe this looks like it was an article profiling her as well as some interviews, multiple interviews I think were pulled together for this, but she talked about watching the show Black Girls Rock on BET, and that this was what inspired her in 2014 to start up her work in this specific area. There's a quote here. She said she wanted to capture some of that same energy in a space related to mental health by putting things onto the web that makes, quote, mental health topics accessible and relevant to Black women. Now, I wasn't familiar with Black Girls Rock. It's an award show on BET, Black Entertainment Television, and it also provides a nonprofit to teach leadership skills, to develop confidence in teenage girls, and so just basically a lot. They put out a book, Black Girls Rock: Owning Our Magic, Rocking Our Truth. So that's worth it. That's worth a whole dive in and of itself. I went off on a little tangent in my research to see how cool that is. So you can look up Black Girls Rock, and they're also the executive producer is Beverly Bond, who is a celebrity DJ, businesswoman, and so anyway, very, very cool stuff that's going on there. But that same kind of upbeat, sort of energetic approach to things is what Dr. Bradfor wanted to bring to mental health in this work. Like I said, you can find the podcast. They have a video and audio podcast that you can find. You can look that up on YouTube as well. Therapy for Black Girls is once again the name of the show. If you go to therapyforblackgirls.com, you can see the kind of work that they do. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it before we dump all y'all that aren't patrons so that you can hear a little bit about this. And then you get a little bit more for those of you that are subscribers. So one of the things that I want to highlight that I thought was very cool is that there's a blog section here. So you've got the podcast, you've got videos, you got all that. And then you've got, if you go to therapyforblackgirls.com/blog, I'm going to tell you a couple of the articles they have here that are, I think, really cool. Inherited miles, carrying generational wear and tear, generational trauma being very, very big for any marginalized community. Break before breakdown, interrupting the cycle of burnout, stuck in drive, high functioning, but not okay. You know, this ties in with a lot of the episodes that I've been when I work with people who talk about excessive burnout. We just this week had a great episode by Dr. Joseph Luffman talking about that. And here you get this also specialized for the Black community. Supporting Black survivors in this moment. You know, there's a lot of advocacy burnout that we're seeing nowadays. People who are worried about, you know, current state of things. I am one of those who's quite worried about the current state of things socially and politically in the U.S. right now. And one of the articles that I really want to mention, a little bit of the work that they are doing, is the Leveling Up is the name of it. Black Women in Gaming and the Fight for Representation. So you can go and check that out. I'm going to tell a little bit more about it for those that we continue with. This is unfortunately for the greater population, the time where we have to depart. And then the patrons of the show are going to get to hear the rest of this episode. So thank you everybody for being out there. All y'all are great. And now we forge ahead into the second part of this episode.